Salute the flag.
I'm reading away.
Oh, sorry. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Nope.
Public comment?
Didn't come here for nothing.
Mr. Lee?
It's been a while since I've been here, so I'm just trying to get,
Nice to see you back.
just trying to get myself into the status of how you conduct your business. Public comments. First one, what do you expect for the public to say at these meetings?
The first one is something on the agenda,
Yeah, okay. New business.
under new business.
Yeah. What do I ask? There's nothing there. Okay, so I can't.
We don't
I
always
can't-
have new business.
Well, all right. Any one of the other ones? You haven't had any discussions on it, so what do you expect the public to say? We talk about the policies. You know, do you expect public comment when you start talking about the policies? Or is it the traditional way of the public keeps quiet until the very end of the meeting and then they have an opportunity to speak?
No, we open it up for two public comments.
I haven't seen a lot of it at that level on TV. I've been watching the meetings on a regular basis. And very seldom do I see the public having an opportunity to speak during the discussion period, okay, where I may have something to put forward to you to make you, make your decision-making easier, okay? I don't find that in this agenda format that will allow me to speak like I used to be able to, okay? So I just wanted to get an idea of how you're gonna conduct the business. So if you're talking about something that I feel I may have something to contribute, then I will be acknowledged and be heard.
I hear you.
Okay? As opposed to, this is a school board meeting, it is not a public meeting. Okay? So I'm looking for an opportunity to get back into these meetings with something to contribute, all right? Because I've been involved, if any of you people don't know me, I've been involved with the school board meeting for, since
10 years?
2000, at least that rough, 2008, where I have some documentation that I used to compile, okay? And with what's been going on in the school in the last year or so, being, I don't have any kids in the school, I don't have any grandkids in the school, I don't have any great-grandkids in the school, okay? But I'm concerned that things are not good in Wakefield and what's going on with the education for our kids, okay? And I've made changes in the past, okay, by what I've had to contribute, and I'm gonna try to do that again. So, carry on.
Sandy?
I believe that we discussed at a previous meeting earlier within the last couple months, that if you see something on the agenda and you would like to speak, that you need to inform the SAU office
Understand
of
that.
that.
Understand that.
Okay.
If there's something specific that I want to address, notify you in advance.
Yes.
But if there's something that comes up that I was not aware of, that I can still contribute to, okay?
I think we have to give, this is our meeting.
That's the point I'm trying to make, Sandy.
And the thing is, I think that you have two times you can speak. If you know there's something on here during public comment,
Yeah.
that's when you would say. that, I have something I'd like to contribute under such and such, and then we can add you at that point?
I'm not sure I follow.
You have the agenda, right?
You have the agenda.
And you look at it, and you haven't seen, you've already made contact with the SAU office, saying that you want to speak about something on the agenda.
Yep.
But when you get here, you think of something else. During public comment would be the time you would let the
At the end of the meeting.
public comment at the beginning, if there's something.
Public comment at the beginning of the meeting is for what is on
On the
the
agenda,
agenda.
yes.
Okay.
And afterwards, and then if you have something at the end, public comment at the end.
Right. What I'm trying to make is that if something comes up during the meeting, let me take an example. Transportation Director's Report. He's gonna talk somewhere, he's gonna talk about buses, okay? And give some direction as whatever, all right? All right, I drove a truck for 45 years, all right? I should be able to put my 2 cents worth in there.
At the end, in my opinion.
Then you vote, okay, if it's not at the end, if I have to wait till the end, and you vote on something during that time frame, all right, and I have to wait until the end, all right, you will not have taken my input that may have changed your mind.
What you have to understand, we can take your input. If you make a comment that one of us decides was a good comment, and we were on the voting side of that,
Yep.
vote, we can bring it up at the next meeting to revisit it. We can. That's the way it
Well,
goes.
All right.
Thank
So-
you, Sandy.
Dave, is the agenda available to you prior to the meeting? Do you have an opportunity to know what's on the
As long
agenda?
as it's on the website, I've typed it out myself today, okay? Don't have an issue with that, okay? It's just a matter of fact that if you were voting on something to buy a bus, let's say, all right, and for whatever reason, I had some input to put into that. If you voted on it and you go into public comment later on in the evening, it's already been voted on. And I may have something to say that may have changed somebody's mind, okay? And my
Bill-
vote isn't worth anything.
Certainly builds frustration.
But it builds frustration on our part too, because it slows down the meeting process.
Well, I'm sorry, but the meeting is the meeting.
And you
It
elected us.
is a business meeting held in public, correct?
Yes.
I'm just trying, as I'm listening, I'm just trying to think of a way that we could get some input without changing this around too much. Public comment at the beginning on the agenda items. I guess if it was like a bus situation and it was on the agenda down the bottom, maybe somebody could put their 2 cents in, at the beginning of the meeting, which will help us. Then we'll bring it up.
Listen, I don't want to hold the meeting up.
No, we want to hear you. We want to hear what you're saying.
Like I said, I used to be extremely involved in the school board's meeting. Okay, SAU 64. Okay, Milton's joint meetings with Wakefield. I used to attend all the meetings. I'm very knowledgeable of what's gone on in the past years. Okay, it was one point in time when they didn't accept comments from the public. And through some efforts of mine and a couple other people, we got that on the agenda, all right? Which has changed somewhat. Now it's your comments are accepted at the end of the meeting if they're not on the agenda. But if they're on the agenda, why they're on the front of the agenda like that? Because nobody speaks on it.
Would it be helpful if the speaker at the beginning of the meeting noted that agenda item and requested an opportunity to speak during that part of the agenda.
And that's what I was saying.
I mean, so we could,
Ralph, I know the rules a little bit.
Yeah.
I know the rule that says if you want to put something on the agenda, get in touch with the appropriate people, and they'll you put it on the agenda so that I can speak to
sure,
it.
yeah,
Okay?
yeah.
I understand that. Okay, it's the things that I don't know about, like new business. What's gonna come up tonight under new business? Okay? Nothing I can do.
Yeah.
Please carry on.
Thank you, Dave. Anybody else? Consent agenda? Anybody want to make a motion on the consent agenda
I move to accept the consent agenda.
I'll second it.
for discussion? Any discussion?
You did the.
Did everybody take a look at that? I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
I,
Well,
I'm wondering if, what Marie might think about this. Knowing that we have a small budget, and knowing that we're already entering the year with changes, is it anybody's concern beyond mine to maybe freeze our budget and make sure that all of the appropriations are applied in the proper areas, and when we start to get near red ink, all of the spending at that point is checked and double checked by the board? I mean, I'm afraid that history might repeat itself here, and I think it would be prudent for us to consider freezing the budget. Would anybody support that effort?
I think it's too early to freeze the budget, first of all. Second of all, a lot of the things that put us in a deficit this past year, one was the miscalculation of tuition
Insurance.
and insurance, which has been corrected. The other one was, the bulk of it was special ed, which we had no control over. So to freeze now for other things, because all the other function areas were fine, except for those two areas. So at this point, I do think it's prudent that when we get our monthly reports to go over them, and at that maybe, in the next few months, if we see something, to do it then. And we can always look at it and, as a board, individually come to the back and say, I think we have a problem from what I see here, here, and here, and that should be discussed. But to freeze the budget this early on, I don't think is prudent.
okay. Tracy?
It'll be the third year in a row that we freeze the budget. And basically, when you're freezing the budget, the only budget that you're freezing is regular ed. You cannot freeze special ed. Special ed is mandated by law to pay. So if you start to freeze regular ed, that's it. You have to pay by law the high school because it's a contract. You have to pay special ed because it's mandated by law. When you start to freeze a budget, the only kids that get hit are the regular ed kids. A warrant article doesn't affect the operating budget, so buses don't affect the operating budget. We've frozen the regular ed budget now. This would be the third year in a row. I would very much like to see what will happen is if we get more special ed again this year, if we start to run up on special ed, we have to pay that by law. Where they get the money from will be the regular ed kids once again. So I'm very interested to know when we start to go up in the special ed, because then you do have to start to cut back on your regular ed. And I'd like to give our regular ed kids a chance before we start to freeze their budget one more year. They need books. We have a report coming later. But when special ed starts to hit 400,000, the only place to get it is from the regular ed kids. So I would like to wait and see.
Ian?
Just speaking from the special ed perspective, I would say that there are some lines in my budget that are non-negotiable. Out of district is non-negotiable. there are things that are negotiable, and I have already told the front office that all of those need to come through me. So I'm watching those lines very carefully.
Jerry?
And we're just about to be informed, we're already making decisions here on holding back money for right now, just so we can keep a better eye on it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's always been the direction given to the SAU as well as the building.
Yeah, I think the culture has changed a little bit to make sure that this happens this way too, so.
All right, I had to ask.
Meeting minutes. They want to make a motion on the public and non-public June 18th, July 9th.
I do have to abstain on the July 9th one, so I don't know how you want to make the motion. But
I'll make a motion to approve the public and the non-public minutes of June 18th and July 9th with any amendments offered.
amend that.
Oh, second first?
And then can we discuss?
Yep.
I second.
Second for discussion?
My discussion would be, we need to vote on non-public on those 2 dates separately because of Tracy not being there.
That's what I was trying to say.
Okay.
So I move.
So you want to withdraw your motion?
I wouldn't mind having the vote on each separate date. I mean, if I had to amend my motion to that, to separate the dates, that's fine. So my
I
motion
second
would
the
be,
amended motion.
Go ahead, Ralph.
so my motion would be, or should be, the public and non-public minutes for June 18th and the non-public minutes for July 9th.
Be separated.
Yeah. That's what yeah.
So let somebody make a motion on the June 18th minutes. That motion, Ralph?
Yep.
And
Certainly.
a second on that?
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Second. Tracy?
Yeah, I don't know, it was either me. He was saying.
Sandy.
Sandy. And Ralph?
I was just wondering if there were any amendments to be offered. I'll be quiet.
Make a motion on the July 9th?
Okay. I'll second it.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Abstain.
Aye.
Thank you. 3, 1 abstain. Reports. Principals report.
All right.
Principal discipline report.
Get them both here. Jen couldn't be here tonight. She just got married this weekend. So she's in St. Lucia and
Nice.
didn't feel right asking her to commute back and forth to the board
She didn't
meeting.
invite any of us?
But I'll take your guesses.
So I this is the first principal's report since the last day of school, so some of this feels like it was a while ago, and it was, but it's important to report out on it anyway.
Page 19?
18 for me.
Yeah.
So the last day of school has come and gone. It included a step-up day. This year we went to a school-wide model where everyone did the same thing. So each grade level went up a grade, and for the first 15 minutes they met as a group, and then for that second half of step-up day they went into their individual classroom. So you got a dose of this is your new grade level team, these are your grade level teachers, and then you got a dose of your individual classrooms and who you're with and who your teachers are. In the past, we've gone just directly to the teachers at times, and you're almost overwhelmed with who's in your class and who isn't in your class. So we thought it was important to meet as a group first, and because you're so excited or upset about who is and isn't in your class, you miss the message of the teacher. So we switched that up a little bit this year. Both 8th grade and kindergarten students had successful graduations on the 19th and 20th, respectively. The New Hampshire State Assessment System scores have been finalized. Individual students results have been printed, and they'll be sent home either hopefully by the end of this week, if not the end of this week, next week for sure. But I have a couple of highlights from this year's testing. So we have our curriculum and assessment committee met, and we kind of showed these showed the results with graphs and a bit of a presentation, but those were initial at that point, and at this point they're considered the final scores. So a couple of highlights here. Students in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade math all scored above the state average. Eighth grade in particular scored 23 percentage points above the average. So, in percentage points, I mean they were either proficient or above proficient. So at Paul School in eighth grade, 68% of our eighth grade students were proficient or above in math. And the state average was 45.
Direction.
Yeah, so that's
Great accomplishment.
that's pretty big, yeah. And then to dive a little deeper, eighth grade improved 17 percentage points from last year to this year. Fourth grade improved, and I'm talking math right now. Fourth grade improved 13 percentage points from last year, and sixth grade improved 30 percentage points from last year.
Holy,
So when you talk percentage points, 50 students would equal, each student would equal about 2 percentage points. So when you say 30 percentage point bonus or improvement, it's about 15 students that improved into the proficient category or above. So that's pretty big time.
Jerry?
Jim, can you just clarify, is that, when you say from last year to this year, you're talking those students improved and not fourth grade did better than fourth grade last year? Because we look at scores, grade level, how fourth grade did. Which one are you speaking of?
So it's from 7th grade last year to 8th grade this year.
So it's the cohort that you're talking
The
about.
group of students, right.
Excellent, thank you.
Yeah. That was my question.
And in reading, 8th grade tested above the state average, meaning that our graduating 8th grade students finished above the state average in both math and ELA. So that's big time. And then also, 5th grade went up 10 percentage points from last year in ELA reading as well. So there's a lot to learn from the data, and we'll dive deeper into it. But those are some highlights that I thought would be important to point out.
Very important. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And ELA is early learning
English
assessments?
English language arts.
Yeah.
English language arts.
You know, and I think it's I love the applause for it, because our kids have been working really hard. I mean, we started the school year this year with a growth mindset, meaning not saying, hey, you're a smart kid, you can do better than that, but you're a hard worker. And so we don't leave it just that, the smart kids are going to always do well and the kids who struggle are always going to struggle. You're not just a smart kid, but you're a hard worker. And we want to recognize that, and the teachers have worked really hard at ensuring that those students are having access to quality instructional time. And, I want to applaud Jim and Jen, Mr. Lampron and Ms. Kuehl, for giving that support to them, because that couldn't happen. They've had a struggle this year with trying to maintain, we had a lot of shifts this year, and they've really done a nice job of ensuring the teachers have quality time, good coverage in the classroom, and just making sure that the kids have everything they need. And I think that they've done a great job with that. And, I think that it's important to also recognize that the language arts, it's moving forward. We're making great strides. You guys did with the budget this past year, making sure that we have the materials that we have the next year for that Founders in Pinell, because that really is, I think, going to carry the day in regard to language arts. I really feel like our math is showing great strides, and we're closing the gap in language arts and reading. But it's important that we recognize that we aren't going to get there unless we continue moving forward with the materials that we need. And that Founders in Pinell, I think, is going to be key to that. And so I thank you as a board for doing that, and thank again the taxpayers for approving that as well, because that Founders in Pinell program is really a top-notch program. It's a comprehensive program. We're rounding that out. Mr. Lampron's putting that book room together right now to make sure that all the students have level readers, but we couldn't do that without all that support. And I know it's been a struggle this year, and I just want to say I appreciate that from everybody, the community, as well as the board and the teachers
and great news
the
to hear this.
administration, because Mr. Lampron and Ms. Kuehl have really stepped up this year. I think everybody has, so I just want to say thank you. I love those scores. Thank you.
Thank you.
So it's Mrs. Spector now.
Oh, she's Miss Spector, yeah. She's not here to hear me.
No. The beginning of the summer, Mrs. Spector, the assistant principal, and I attended the Mount Washington Administrators Retreat at Mount Washington. And it's a learning academy for administrators across the state. It was a great opportunity for networking and bouncing ideas off of other administrators around the state. We kind of just organically linked up with folks from Northwood and from Somersworth, and we just had really good conversation back and forth. How do you do this? Have you ever dealt with this? How did you handle that? So like the unwritten like schedule or agenda for the retreat was had the most impact for me. But one of the keynote speakers, he stuck with me as well, and his message was, he was a military guy, looked tough, tight haircut, built guy, a little intimidating, but he had this message that when you lead, you should lead with love. And he talked about that sometimes the staff members or the people that you work with who are the most challenging to work with or who require the most time, energy, attention, and effort are the ones who need the love the most. So make yourself available to accommodate the time that those people need, because they're part of your team, and ultimately, you're leading those people that get along super duper well with you and the ones that don't, and they all require you to lead with love. So it was a cool message, and it stuck with me. I thought that would be worth noting.
Jim, that sounds like a good place off the social emotional learning and the workshop stuff you guys will be doing this summer.
Yep.
Awesome.
We have interviews next Monday and Tuesday for library media specialist to replace Mrs. Anderson. And we now have an opening for a Little Paws preschool teacher that's been posted internally and externally. And we'll interview for that position once we've reviewed our pool of applicants. Those are still coming in now. And just this summer, Jen and I had a brief meeting with Officer Landry to kind of discuss his role for the upcoming school year. So Dave was a welcomed asset to the school last year, but he kind of came in like in a midway point where we weren't able to set the standard for what his expectations were from day one and on. So we had that meeting with him, and what is important in his role will be, one, being visible with the students, and he's going to be a big player with our check-in, check-out, and he's also going to have an advisory group, as well as be in the cafeteria for lunches to increase that visibility, not invisibility. So we had that meeting, and that was productive. And then upcoming dates, we have our extended school year happening right now, going through August 8th. Not noted on here, but Title I summer program ends August 1. We have Cynthia Merrill, our literacy consultant who was referenced earlier, coming in July 22 through 24. She's going to talk about our PD through the school year, as well as setting up the book room. That's really important to get our teachers the resources they need to make our literacy program work at its highest levels. We have a group of 10 staff, and is it 10?
14.
14 staff members attending a social emotional learning conference on July 25 and 26. And then on August 26th, staff returns. August 27th, kindergarten day 1, and then August 28th, first day of school for all students.
Can I just mention one thing, Bob?
Sure.
All of the professional development that Mr. Lamphorn just spoke of was coming through grant money.
I was going to ask if that's part of their professional development as well.
It
is.
applies to their professional development.
Right, that's
but
what I
we were
meant.
able to cover it with
Yeah.
grant money.
And then to the discipline report, referrals were up the last month of the year, with two grades being the bulk of the referrals. So part of how we're addressing that is with our intervention room next year, and then it gives students a buffer between the classroom and the office, and I think that's going to have a lot of impact. But also, I noticed on the graph in the very back where it says total referrals for the year isn't accurate. A lot of times when we do these, we'll use a former report as like a template and then go from there. So this isn't entirely accurate. The 2019 numbers are accurate, but the 18, 17, 16, 15, 14 they're all very low. So it's a bit misleading. And that's the principal's report.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions? Thanks, Jim.
Thank you for those.
Transportation Director's report. Van purchase.
So, I didn't really have much on my report this time, just the minivan purchase. I looked at the state bids and there wasn't anything available for minivans. So I went down to Poolin and I looked at minivans, and then I called 3 other companies to get competitive pricing. And I have the specs that I listed here for you, and my recommendation is that we go with Bonneville. It's a little more expensive, but they do not have a Bluetooth in that minivan, which takes away the temptation of using it. Bluetooth is federal and SAFC law that we can't use them. We can have them, but we can't use them in our vehicles. So just having it there is a temptation. I'm just coming to the board to get a recommendation on what way to go.
I did have a question on the Bluetooth. I was thinking that actually might be helpful if there was an emergency, but they would have to pull over, so it's really irrelevant.
It's irrelevant.
Okay. And I don't think any of them had a
Question,
Bluetooth.
anybody?
They all did except the Bonneville one.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize that.
What was that, sorry?
Sandy?
I had a question. How does this go with what we've put aside for money and what you initially had wanted?
When I did my estimates for doing my, was it a warrant article? Part of my warrant article, I actually budgeted 35.
Okay.
So,
And that one,
There's a savings.
correct.
okay.
There's enough money in there for
Okay,
the purchase
that's
of
what I
all
wanted to
3
know.
vehicles this year.
And really and truly, there's $1,000 difference between the Berlin City Auto Group of 23.4 and the Bonneville for 24.5. You think that not having Bluetooth is worth $1,000? $1,100?
If a driver gets caught using Bluetooth, they will lose their school bus certificate and they will no longer be employed with the school. That's my recommendation to lift that temptation, but I would go on what the board thinks is best for the school.
It did seem to be a wise choice with Bonneville, just so that the possibility would be eliminated. You know, I mean, it's not that everybody's going to use the Bluetooth. If the Bluetooth isn't there, it will not get used.
I personally, as we've been tight for money before, it's $1,152 for reasons to spend because we don't trust somebody not to use their Bluetooth.
But then what would the cost be to replace the driver? Training
You
and
could
all
do that
stuff.
with every argument. So, I personally think we should go with the least expensive. And hopefully the employee will
So you're saying
follow
all these
along.
others have Bluetooth in their vehicles, they don't have anything that's available that,
Bonneville is like, it's a bigger company, so they could just order as you purchase. The other ones
Yep.
purchased before, so those are what's on their lot.
Okay, just add in there, you know, not that it's gonna make up $1,000, but that it's also about a 12-person-hour trip to go get that vehicle in Berlin.
Oh,
Round
it
trip
is.
and paperwork. I'm just, you know, they're gonna be up, it's gonna be, let's say probably, 4 hours round trip anyway, and then the time for 2 people, because you have to take one vehicle up with 2 people and then drive
Oh, that
back.
does add a cost.
So, I'm just,
Okay.
it's not $1,000 worth, but I'm just throwing it out there as
good,
a
good point, good point.
Um,
Anybody wanna make a motion?
I would,
I
but
just
I'm on
had
the
a-
transportation
I just
committee,
had
so
a
it'd be
question.
odd.
Why is Bonneville so more expensive if it doesn't have Bluetooth capability?
Less expensive, you mean?
More. The
More.
one that
Oh, Bonneville.
we're
Bonneville's
paying
more.
more for no Bluetooth.
Is there any more negotiation with them?
No, I even tried the whole, it'll be a cash purchase.
Their salespeople have a higher commission.
Yeah.
I really just honestly don't want to spend approximately $1,200 more for less of a vehicle. I guess it won't be 12 because it would cost some money for 2 people to go get it. But we're trying to watch our pennies.
Is there a
So-
way we can disable that in a vehicle?
The Bluetooth.
Can we ask Poolin if that's the case?
I can ask.
Don't you have to activate it? I think.
No.
You have to pair your phone to it.
That's right. Yes.
Takes 2 seconds.
Doesn't take long at all.
My concern is that if we go with the lowest bid here, how do we get it serviced under warranty?
You can still get a service that, the local Dodge dealer, it's still under warranty.
Yeah, you can go anywhere with that.
Where is the Bonneville? Is that nearby?
Portsmouth.
Portsmouth?
And then we have Poolin, which is a little bit more than Bonneville, and that's a delivered price. They'll deliver it right up to DePrizio's to get the school bus.
That's a little
inspected.
less.
It's a little less
Yeah.
delivered.
That's what I meant, sorry, a little less than Bonneville.
And delivered to us.
But it's delivered.
mean,
But it does have a Bluetooth.
Bonneville is the third highest
More
of
than
the 4 quotes, actually.
I'm wondering if we can get it disabled.
I asked my husband, and he said that it's all in the mechanics and everything, and it's complicated, and
It's in the
it-
computer
And it
and
could null the whole warranty, which is something I'd have to ask more on.
Sandy?
The other thing is, Brennan did say that there's laws in place that they can't use it, and that it does jeopardize their license if they use it,
And fines it.
and fines and stuff. And the driver would be responsible for those fines, not us.
Driver would be responsible for fines. If they got pulled over in a vehicle, I think, I don't know with our insurance, because I don't have, but I know on, if we just had a company insurance, it affects the insurance rate of like a trucking company. And I don't know how ours particularly works. I know that it can put points up on insurance for a driver if that gets pulled over on our vehicle. With that, but they would lose their school bus certificate. Instantly.
Well,
if it was open.
Yes.
Sorry, Sandy.
you, no, you.
Okay. If it was only $400 that it cost in time and running up to Berlin City, we'd be saving $752. And I'm certainly not saying we should throw $752 out the window. But again, if the technology's there, everybody wants to use it, and if we lose a driver because, and it's not saying that every driver or any driver is bound to use it, but if the opportunity's not there, then the problem is eliminated.
You go first.
And we still have to drive and pick up the Bonneville, too. So, I mean, that's not without a delivery issue.
Not as significant as Berlin City, but still some time.
I'll make a motion.
Well, let me ask one more quick question.
Okay, sorry.
So, could we ask Berlin City if they would deliver it to us? No charge? Have you done that?
I have not done that, and that was mentioned in the meeting. So I will be
So if we
making
went
that
with
call.
them, would they deliver it to us?
I can't tell you that they would, but I can definitely ask.
What's the timeline for making a commitment?
It's gonna take me about a month to get it registered and inspected, and we need it for the beginning of the school year.
August 27th. I think we get time to,
So I guess it sounds like you're moving toward is asking, looking to see if we can get the delivery from Berlin, which is fine. But if they can't do it, Brennan really needs direction tonight so we can get that van on the road for the first day of school.
Sandy?
My other question is, did you ask Berlin Article if they could supply you a van without the Bluetooth in it?
I asked all. It was the one thing I asked. Berlin and Poolin, they purchase their vehicles to put on their lots, and Bonneville doesn't purchase them. They do. It's like a contract thing where they can put 20 of the same vehicle on the lot.
So
and
this
they
is
don't pay
what's
for
on
it.
on their lots right now?
Correct.
And so that if we were to request one without Bluetooth, it could even take longer for them to get one to us. Gotcha. I have just one other comment, and that is the Bonneville, it is higher than the lowest one on here. However, it's still below what she had put in as part of the trust, the warrant article.
Mhm.
So we are saving money there that we're not going to be using. So,
Every $1,100 just about is almost a Chrome book.
but we can't use it for a Chromebook though, because it's.
No, I know that.
But it is under what the town appropriated for us to use. And when you're only
I feel like being the icebreaker.
Go ahead,
I can't be. I'm on the committee.
you can talk.
No,
Yeah, you can.
I can?
I
Sure,
think
is
you
that
can.
true?
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to go with Barneyville and Son at 24,585 because solely for the purpose of eliminating the Bluetooth issue.
So you'll spend the $1,100 to not have a Bluetooth.
I calculated down to 752, but I mean.
Well, we have to pick up the Bonneville too. I mean, there's a
With-
cost in picking that one up as well.
But it's not as far.
It's not as far,
We
but
can
there's
ask,
still
we
a
can ask that
cost.
question for a delivery to them too.
My motion is based on the fact that this does not have a Bluetooth, which, you know, that to me will eliminate future problems, chance or fate or whatever.
I think we should go with the least expensive.
Well, if I don't get a second on my motion.
I second.
You second my motion?
I'm just torn a little bit because I buy a lot of vehicles, because I drive a lot. And I bought 7 vehicles from Pool and Dodge. It's almost thing that if I wanted something with no Bluetooth in it, they can find it for me. You know, they can get it from another dealership. I don't know why Pooling can't get it from Bonneville and Sons. Same.
Probably, the amount of, I believe it's all based on sales and commissions, you know, I mean, it's gotta be, because it's the very same vehicle. I mean, you look at the specs, I mean, one batch of salespeople need to make a little bit more than the other batch of salespeople.
And we have to go pick both up. One's just a little farther than the other.
Yeah, and one doesn't have Bluetooth.
I don't think it's worth $1,100, but that's okay. The motion's over. I'm done with the discussion.
So we have a motion on the floor in a second. All in favor for Bonneville and Sons, right?
That was what my motion was for. Aye.
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 Nay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Is that all you have?
That is all I had.
Facilities manager.
Yes, sir. So first thing we got going on is I brought Mr. Frost with me tonight. There's something not on my report that we're looking at doing with the sound system. So I'm gonna go over my stuff real quick and then turn it over to him. I'm gonna let him take the lead on that. Summer cleaning of building, we're extracting carpets, starting to wax rooms, all that fun stuff's happening. Top to bottom cleaning. Learning centers are underway. Everything's framed up, waiting on the electricians to come in. They'll start on Monday. Security grants underway. Should be discussed a little bit later on, I think. Painting started yesterday, taping and all that stuff, and the floors have been ordered.
Everything's on schedule?
I didn't say that. I'll let you know in a couple of weeks. August 6th, I'll let you know where we're at.
I have a question. What's being painted? Is that the classrooms or hallways or both?
So what we're gonna do is, underneath Mr. Lampron and myself and Ms. Kuehl, we're kind of talking about a new look for the school. And we're gonna make it all coincide with one paint scheme,
Okay.
so it will be the hallways
Okay.
mostly, and getting rid of the red underneath
Oh, nice.
of the front foyer.
That sounds great.
Have we told, do you wanna elaborate on the stripe at all, Jim, or?
We just want to be uniform when you come into school, so you can live next to the lake, or you can live in the box next to the lake. You can be a nice kid, a mean kid, a smart kid, a blonde-haired kid. Doesn't matter, because when you walk into the school, you're just a Panther. And so we want to have a unifying vision all the way around the school. So it's all white with a black strip around the middle. And we don't have logistics figured out yet, but we're going to generate a way for students to get a handprint on that black strip so that you could come back to Paul School a decade from now be like, oh, look at,
Yeah,
remember
with
that
their name on it?
handprint?
Oh my gosh, that's
cute.
great.
I like
So
that.
that's what we're hoping to get to. Logistics aren't all ironed out yet, but I think it's a pretty awesome idea, and just the message that we're all Panthers and we are white and black and we represent who we are. I think will be a nice touch, and it makes the school it's fresh.
Yeah.
It's gonna smell clean. It's gonna look clean, and it's gonna give that impression of welcome back. You know.
Any other question for Joe?
Long overdue.
Yeah.
Good, Tracy.
Is the water situation progressing?
That is, I haven't done much with that because of everything else going on.
Okay.
So
Okay.
that's kind of on the
Okay.
back burner for right now.
I was just curious.
Yep.
What kind of, what size black strip down the middle of the wall?
Three bricks.
Yeah.
I think the bricks are 7 inches, right? So it'll be 21-ish
Nice.
inches.
Lots of
that
room
should
to
look good.
add,
Yeah.
add
Yeah,
ants
it's
over
very
the
exciting.
years.
I heard you mention it when we gave
Do
a
we
tour
have a
one
su-
day.
a
It's
shrubbery?
nice to see that it's actually
What's
gonna
that, Sandy?
occur.
Shrubbery removal update, you were gonna look into the shrubbery removal, what it would cost?
Shrubs.
The
I
shrubs?
thought we decided on a volunteer.
Yeah, we said a volunteer would pull those out.
Did we get a volunteer? Did you volunteer?
There's a lot of green out there, so I did mention it to Joe earlier, just to make sure that
Oh, the right
when that
shrubs?
volunteer gets here, they don't silly grab the wrong ones.
Would
Put
that
some
be a
flagging on
disaster
them.
if he did anyway? No,
Probably not.
probably not.
But they've recovered nicely, most
Okay,
of them.
okay.
I'd like to.
All right, Mr. Frost, you're up. Does anybody have anything else for me?
Not yet.
Thank you, Joe.
Okay. Take one, pass one down.
So the packet that is being passed down is all the quotes and the RFQ and who we contacted to do the sound system that will be in the gym and cafetorium, if you want to call it that. So the first page of the packet is the RFQ that we posted on the website and that we emailed to companies and all that stuff. The second page are the companies that we did contact. At the top, the companies at the bottom were the two that were that emailed us back and actually gave us a quote on everything, which can be found starting on page 3. Let's get this paper ball. So this, on the third page, Technical Sound and Video Service Company, they've been in business since the 1970s. They definitely know their stuff. They toured our school, they toured our stage and gym. We told them what we wanted, we told them where we wanted it, and they said, yep, okay, we can do that. So this first quote includes what's called a CD recorder. So what that does is it actually records a CD through the soundboard, which I can mess with the specs and say, oh, I want a little more bass here, I want a little less treble there, and I want to add a compressor to it. So that way we could actually record our concerts when we do them, and we can post them online and say, look what we're doing with the fantastic band and chorus students that we're doing. We can also record them for the talent show as well. We can split the CDs and give them to each student, each parent, post it on our website saying, look at our amazing talented students that we have in our school, and just like, you know, plaster their face everywhere. Just make sure that they're getting the recognition that they need. On page 4, we actually received a second quote from the Technical Sound and Video Service Company that eliminates the CD recorder, just because. On the 5th page, leading into the 6th and 7th page, was the quote from Sound Resort in Guilford, New Hampshire. And like I said, they're just quotes. The Sound Resort is in Guilford, New Hampshire. The Technical Sound and Video Service Company is in Berwick, Maine. Berwick, Maine is a little bit closer. Technical Sound and Video Service Company actually, their quote was less, just by like a few $100 less than Sound Resort. Sound Resort, they're very knowledgeable as well. I believe his name is Brian. He toured with us in the school. They said, yep, we can do that as well. Took a look at the stage, took a look at the gym, and they know their stuff too. Did I miss anything?
Ralph?
So the first page for technical sound, that $1,900 is because you're buying the CDJ 2000.
That would, yes, that $1,900 at the bottom of that page, that would be the CD recorder.
And the next item on that list, the CD recorder is not going to be purchased, right? The $299 is going out of that line?
Correct.
Okay. All right.
Teresa?
The CD recorder, however, can share the music with parents and on media.
As long as we don't sell it, which I highly doubt we would, because that would be copyright law-esque. But,
Yeah.
but again, we wouldn't be selling them anyway. We would just be posting them, and you could give them to parents and students.
You could share them and other people could hear the music.
Yeah, of course.
You could sell original content. I mean, if,
Oh, yes.
if somebody came up with original.
Oh yeah, I mean, if we had a student doing talent show, like, I wrote a song, I want to play it, like, oh, yeah, of course, do that. With their permission, of course, and I highly doubt they would say yes. But again, the copyright laws and all that stuff. But we wouldn't be selling anything anyway. We wouldn't be selling these recordings anyway.
Joe, all the 20 amp outlets are there now? Are there any 15s that you need to worry about?
Yep, so what we do is we have that panel on the backside of the gymnasium right there.
Yeah.
And we have one outlet up top where the speaker would go. We would need to put in two quads and one more outlet. We did a special, I forget what line that is. It's a special,
Cat line.
the
Special
special
projects,
projects line, yep, for 13,000. So that was the extra money in there. We're right in line where we wanted to be. So when the electrician comes, that's going to be part of that, getting that all wired up.
Swap out breakers, or do you need to
We
worry
have
about
enough room in that box.
as far as the conductors? You know, are you going up with the larger gauge wire? I mean, you're not taking a 15 amp out with a 14 gauge wire and putting a 20 on, which should be on a 12, right?
Yep, nope,
Okay.
nope.
Tracy?
The two quotes that are similar, the technical sound and the one for 10.3, I'm just on the wrong page. Does the Sound Resort also include the CD recorder, or the CD DJ?
Let's take a look here.
The
I don't
first,
believe it
I don't
does.
believe it does, no.
so the prices are similar. Is there any other difference between for the first quote for 10.3 and the last quote for 10, was it 4?
70.
10.7? What is the difference between those? The first one has the CD DJ,
Correct.
and the last one
second one
does not.
doesn't?
No, it does not. The Sound Resort did not put in the CD recorder. But each company has its own opinions based on, like, oh, you should get this speaker and you should get this soundboard and whatnot. So minor changes here and there would skew that.
But you don't have the ability to share the music with the third one. The third quote, the third with
Right, with
Oh,
sound.
correct,
the
yes,
sound
correct.
The sound resort.
The-
Okay.
Yes,
All right.
correct.
Okay.
Not unless they record it on their phones.
Which is
So really,
not good.
really and truly, the second and the third are similar. The second quote with technical sound and
That first quote that you see with technical sound and video service, that does include that CD recorder, which would, again, we would be able to share the concerts and talent show and all that stuff.
And you think that's necessary?
I think it is necessary in order to show the community what we're doing in the music program, to say, look at all this cool stuff that we're doing. Your talented kids are fantastic, and just making sure that the community, not only the community, but the school knows that these kids are doing such a fantastic job in such a creative art.
And it is video as well as audio, right?
For the quotes,
Yeah.
the TD.
That CDJ, is that audio video, or is that
it
just
would
video?
it would it would
I mean
strictly
audio.
it would strictly be audio.
And you're hoping to move on this fairly soon too?
Tonight.
I'll make a motion, make a motion to accept the bid from Technical Sound and Video Service Company in the amount of $10,336.33 to include the CDJ 2000 DJ controller.
I'll second it.
For discussion, anything else? None? All in favor?
Aye.
There you go.
Thank you. Moving forward.
Joe, you have nothing else?
Nope, I'm good, thank you.
Old business, 91A discussion?
I asked for that to be put on the agenda. Actually, I elaborated on it a little bit more. I can tell you, and I can thank Jerry for providing me with the answers to my 91A requests. I thought that was a good development. Certainly that happened after my request to have that on the agenda. I just want to make sure that the school district understands we have a responsibility to the public to be open and transparent. All 91A requests should be, with legitimate reasons to deny, they should be denied. With no reason to deny, they shouldn't be. So we're moving in the right direction. 91A is, every time they revise it, it gets a little harder for governmental bodies to not be transparent. They put more teeth in that RSA 91A than they do take out of it. So if we're complying with it, I appreciate it, and I thank you again, Jerry, for making sure that the information was shared that I had asked for. And that's
Comments,
really
Jerry?
Yeah, I just want to clear, Mr. Fogg, I guess my question for you, because our discussion, we didn't have a whole lot of discussion afterward, but regarding like the attorney-client privilege, about how, and I just want to clarify that Mr. Fogg and I were having a lot of discussion around attorney-client privilege, and again, my point with Mr. Fogg is, I'm not trying to point fingers, I'm just saying that I can't release attorney-client privilege to Mr. Fogg as a citizen when he's making the request, but I can as a board member. So, like, I have the paperwork here, the attorney-client information, and Mr. Fogg pointed out to me that I'm not the client, and I understand that. The client in the attorney-client privilege really is the school district, of which I represent when I talk to the attorney. So I just want to be really clear that when I withhold the attorney-client information, it's not to withhold it from any individual on the board, but because it's not privileged under 91A, 8:4, to anybody who makes that 91A request. And so that was, am I presenting that accurately, Mr. Fogg?
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't think there's, maybe there is a question as to whether or not I'll receive that information. This stemmed from me asking a question to the second presenter on the healthcare providers. I had asked, because I had asked the first presenter the same question, whether or not the information being provided could be shared with the budget committee, members of the public. Feeling as though it was an informational meeting, gathering information, not in entering negotiations. I believe there's a distinct difference. So Tracy asked the superintendent to contact the attorney. There was an answer that came back, being a non-meeting and not subject to minutes and all that stuff. And so then I asked, well, what was the question, and can you give me the answers? And that was where the attorney-client privilege discussion ensued after that. I definitely feel as though everything I do as a citizen first. I'm elected as a board member. When I make a request, it's so that I can have information that I can share with the board that I think is going to move the board and the whole district forward.
So you're saying that the board can ask for that, though?
Correct. So when I get a 91A from anybody and it's requesting any information regarding something that might be exempt, and I have to determine what can be given and what can't, or sometimes I might even need some assistance with that. As a board member, you know, you're the client as the school board. I'm the representative. I share that with you. When it comes in as a 91A, my concern is I end up setting precedent that as Mr. Fogg points out, I'm a citizen first, that I hand that out to the person requesting the 91, even though they're a board member, you're asking as a citizen. And I think that's part of that discrepancy in trying to determine.
But, I mean, I never would be asking the question or submitting the 91A as a citizen, because I wouldn't have been sitting there as a citizen witnessing, you know, one board member say, ask the question.
Sure.
So, I mean, it was all because I'm a board member that the question was spurred. And again, it's just like, so, you know, just so everybody knows, there's sealed minutes that have been sealed in the last year and a half. As a board member, I'm entitled to read those sealed minutes so that all of us board members are on the same page moving forward. And, you know, I mean, I guess I might want to make that request now.
Yeah, I don't think that's accurate. They
Well, it
were
is
just here that the board approves whether or not a new member gets to read the non-public minutes. First of all, I would say 95% are not sealed anyway. But if I'm not mistaken, I did 2 clinics with the New Hampshire School Board Association. I do believe, I could be incorrect, but I do believe that the current board gets to decide whether or not they share the non-public.
In my past here, we always shared new board members with sealed minutes.
But you were just asking about a legal question, and I just happened to take a couple of courses with it. So
I guarantee you that as a sitting board member, I'm able, I don't want to say entitled because that's a sour word in my vocabulary. I'm able and lawfully able, I can't say entitled, but I am able to read those sealed minutes.
I honestly think there's actually like 2 that I can even think of that are sealed.
And always the purpose
And they're
for
about
that is...
an individual, not, you know, it's
It
because of a
wouldn't-
reputation.
It wouldn't matter.
Jerry, you got any comments on that? Past?
On the sealed
History?
minutes, no, I don't know. That's something I would have to research about, and it's just not something that's in my knowledge base right now.
Well, I know sitting on the board for many years with you, Ralph,
Yeah.
we did let the new board members look at those. So, I mean, that's how it was before. I don't know if that's
sure.
right or not.
I don't mind. I mean,
Again, you know, if you have none, you have none. If you have one, you have one. I mean, it's what it is.
I'm sure there's not an RSA that prevents, you know, a sitting board member from seeing the minutes, whether it has to be a vote to allow somebody to, that I couldn't speak to.
I don't know where
But I can't, I'm sure there's nothing preventing anybody.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Nobody's asked the board which ones. I do have a question. So, the board is not asking for any 91As. How much money have we spent in 91A requests so far, and by whom?
I couldn't tell you how many,
And how many
how much
hours?
money, but we've certainly put in, since I've started tracking time at the beginning of June, 46 and a half hours.
When did you start tracking it?
June, beginning of June.
But we had more.
We had some before that, I mean.
For you.
But again, when I started tracking how much time to be, you know,
And we don't know what the legal fees are yet.
correct.
Some of the information I gained, though, would help us understand how much of the legal fees have been.
If you've asked the question around the legal invoices,
Yeah.
yeah.
Sandy?
While we're talking about RSAs, a couple weeks ago on social media, there was a discussion about negotiations and when information is available. If you could expand so the public will know how the
Sure.
negotiations information goes.
And that comes, I kind of piggybacking off the conversation, you know, we were just having regarding the healthcare. And so when that came up, I had to again seek some legal advice on that. You know, when is a non-meeting?
Sorry, the legal advice is usually the New Hampshire School Board, which is not the doesn't run up the bill like.
I try to go to New
Right.
Hampshire School
Just wanna
Board when
clarify
appropriate.
that there's two
But
sources.
sometimes again,
Right.
when I'm getting some conflicting information, I'm going to go
Right.
and seek out our legal counsel from Leslie Solon Kidder, which I did in this case, and in my conversation with our attorney, one of our attorneys, Mike Elwell, who said that the healthcare is an extension of the joint board negotiation, joint being with the teachers and paras, so that it's not susceptible to the 91A request. You can't record it. You can't. The minutes are sealed. We're not. If we keep minutes, it's a non-meeting and it's not part of. Again, that was my discussion a couple times with Mike Elwell. So that information will typically come out. When you're doing your after you've done your negotiation, and you say, here's what we've agreed on. Like when we go to a warrant, say, here's what we've agreed on for a salary, and here's that discussion. Once the negotiation is done and it's been ratified.
And both parties have ratified. Yes.
Once you've ratified your agreement, then it can be pretty talked about publicly. But again, according to our attorney, the healthcare discussions are an extension of negotiation and not susceptible to 99.
But the information gathering is not a part of the negotiations. It's just like gathering information on vehicles to be purchased or, sound systems to be put in there. You're gathering information for a board or a subcommittee or panel to make decisions based on the information. All of that information you can look up online if you're if you're nobody special like any ordinary citizen can gather the same information that these teams are gathering to go into the negotiating process. So to be fair to every bit or every party of the school district, taxpayers, parents, teachers, the whole thing, to keep information out of somebody's purview is not constructive. The whole purpose for sharing information is so you can go into negotiations with knowledge.
I just base my opinion on the advice of our attorneys.
And that's why I asked for it. So sometimes when we're giving information, we don't really know the question, and that's why in my 91A I said, what is the question and what were the answers? Who did you ask? What? Who did you ask what? And what was their response? And I think that's certainly something that that could be answered. It doesn't hit anybody's privacy or...
I can read it to you right now if you'd like, the response.
Sure, that'd be helpful.
Yeah, please, yeah.
So the joint committee is part of a board/union collective bargaining, and the committee proceedings are not meetings under RSA 91-A:21A because it is a joint board union committee that will recommend collective bargaining agreement changes in health insurance to both the board and the union. It's not a public body. Collective bargaining, including joint committee proceedings, is confidential and not open to the public per RSA 98-3E:3 in New Hampshire Supreme Court decisions. Consequently, the right to attend and videotape public meetings of public bodies is inapplicable to the joint committee proceedings. That's
Again, negotiations are one part, which I would say are proceedings. Information gathering is a separate part, but that's my...
just
If I was a lawyer,
basing my
I'd be
opinion
judging.
on legal advice.
Yeah.
Sandy?
Keep us out of hot water.
I've been involved in several negotiations outside of this board when I was at the school. My opinion is that part of getting your information gathering is part of negotiations. It's not privileged to the public until decisions have been made. This is part of in my opinion, part of the negotiation process, and that would be in violation, in my opinion.
Tracy?
I'm at the meetings, and we did ask at the table. We have to negotiate in good faith, and we did ask other people negotiating at the table if they felt this should be public. They did not, and we are obligated to negotiate in good faith.
there's no,
Actually,
there's
things
no
were said.
negotiations
There
going
were,
on?
actually, there were things said. that-
No, after the meeting, I heard people talking to you, but that was not part of the negotiating meeting that we were gathering information about.
Actually, there were questions from the other table that said, and obviously I can't repeat any of this, but there were questions that definitely related to negotiations, and I understood their position. Coming away from it, I actually changed my view because of things that were said in these meetings that I don't feel I can share. So I actually, and they felt very strongly that they did not want this to be a public meeting, and they wanted us to negotiate in good faith. So it isn't,
I
there
must
were
have
other
missed that
things.
meeting
that's-
because I didn't hear any of that talk. All I heard was what the presenters were there to present to us.
Well, the
And there
presenters-
was no talk, no back and forth. Nobody was saying, I want this and I want that. I did,
No, it wasn't I want this, I want that. It was somebody that said, we have this, so that why is this different than what they already have? So their discussions were going that way, and you did ask the presenters, and the presenters said, it isn't done. This is not open, normally, in their experience, it is not open to the public. I'm sure it's in the minutes.
there's no minutes.
You were there.
Called a non-meeting.
Oh, no minutes, right.
And
Well,
that's,
that was what I took away from it, Ralph. I mean, please don't just call me wrong. I was there as well, and
I didn't
I
hear
clearly-
anything other than the presentations. I didn't hear one side discussing any part of the negotiation.
they were asking honest questions
We were all asking questions of
that
the presenters.
they might not have asked if it were a public meeting. It's that simple.
Oh, okay. I see
All right,
that
let's
one.
move
I
on.
see
Thank
that
you.
one.
New business? None. Policies, second readings.
Do you want to do it, Jerry? I can.
Sure.
The JICD, the Student Discipline and Due Process, we took out, it's a second reading, so unless there are no changes.
As you recall,
Right.
JICD, Student Discipline and Due Process, the piece that
We
we
removed.
changed there, we removed a sentence in there that said the principal will consult with the superintendent around suspensions. And my discussion with other administrators, I've never consulted with the superintendent. I typically let the superintendent know about suspension, and I certainly have to send documentation to the superintendent, but I would not typically consult with the superintendent around suspension. I wouldn't expect that of Mr. Lambron. So we made the recommendation to take that out with the policy committee.
Which we did.
Yes, which has been done. The changes in this, there have been a couple of revisions that haven't been addressed in the last few years, going back to 2017. There was a revision, and then there was another revision to the revised that we didn't revise here in 2018. And basically those are making sure we're in compliance with RSA 193:13, which has to do with suspension and expulsion in public schools, and Ed Rule 317:04, which has to do with disciplinary proceedings with the Department of Education. So those are the only changes that were made when they were revised in 17-18.
Okay, these are second readings. Let's do one at a time.
I did have a question. On page 32, on the long-term suspensions, it was saying, then the school board may designate another person to continue the short-term suspension. Is that done on a
Can you
case?
tell me what page you're on? I'm not looking at page 32. Is it the second page of the
It's it's the third page.
third page?
D.
It's D,
Page D.
under long-term suspensions.
Okay.
I had a question about the school board may designate another person to continue the short-term suspension. Is this on a case, do we have something already in place, or is this something we decide on an as-need basis? I wasn't sure about that.
I've not seen that done before, Sandy. Typically, if the superintendent brought to you an extension of the suspension that was administered by, typically the principal can suspend up to 10 days. I can bring it all the way up to 20. So we have to go beyond 20. I would. I
But the
can't-
designated other person, is that something we have to have in place, or is that something that we do as the case, of if we had
I've
to?
not done it before.
You know,
So
so
you
I
have the
wa- I was-
opportunity to do it.
I
It's
was-
not
I was
something I've ever
just-
seen done.
Yeah, it was just seemed odd in there.
And no school, as a principal myself, I've not been in a school where the school board has designated somebody else.
I haven't seen that either, so I
Been
wasn't sure
aware
why
of.
it was there.
Gives you the ability to do so if you need to, but I can certainly find out what that means.
No,
I don't expect we're gonna need it.
I know, it just struck me as odd.
You would be making that extra suspension if we had to do it beyond
Okay,
the 20 days,
So we're the designated.
which is what we did. Well, you've done it as a board in the past, we've not done it as an individual or a discipline committee. And that may be what the RSA is talking about.
Yeah, okay.
Anybody want to make a motion on policy JICD?
Make a motion to accept policy JICD.
I
Yes.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Thank you.
I'm affirmative.
And
GBCEC?
Yeah, GBEC and ABD, as you recall, are mirror image policies. There are a few policies within New Hampshire School Board Association who assist us with the writing of these policies. They create most of the models. GBEC and ABD are required by law. But the drug-free workplace and drug-free schools, and we're required to have them both, and they are mirror images, and the only thing in there has just been updated to go with the law, with the RSA. Not much to it really, again, making sure that we don't test when needed, that we decided not to do Narcan in the schools, they even have recommendations, options to allow Narcan in the schools, to allow a needle exchange within the schools, not something we opted to do.
Good.
And I was noticing that it says we're supposed to establish a drug-free awareness program to educate employees. Do we do that every year?
We will be. Yeah, it's not something that I've seen done here since
That's
my
why I-
days in '64. We were 64, but we are in the process of doing that.
That's why
Yeah.
I brought it up, because I worked here and I've
read
never
this
seen
one.
it
I don't
either.
think we've seen this before.
No.
Well,
And-
do they mean the, what our finance officer says? What that would mean?
It's just not something we've required on a regular basis.
I know.
I have not required it ever in my memory.
Good, Teresa.
The only optional item in the New Hampshire School Board Association policy is the possibility to adopt a syringe service program, which we opted not to include, which we told you on the first reading that we weren't going to. That would be for anybody, not just school
Want to
kids.
vote on these together?
You can't, they're mirror, again, they are mirror image
Ralph, you got a
policies.
Question?
Well, I was just, should we vote to reaffirm one and vote to eliminate the other? I mean, or is
Yeah,
redundancy?
Both policies are required
They're
by
required.
law. And what we're waiting for is that to change in New Hampshire school board policies. You know, as soon as we get that from them, we'll be eliminating policies as we can.
Till that time, we'll.
Anyone want to make a motion?
Sure. I make a motion
I'll move.
to adopt identical policies GBEC and ADB, drug-free workplace and drug-free schools.
ABD.
ABD.
You have a second?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Opposed? All right. Thank you. No other business?
I have something I'd like to bring up.
Go ahead, Sandy.
We got everyone should have received something from a constituent about health insurance cost sharing. And I just wanted people to know that we're very aware, we've always had that cost sharing in the past. It's not something that we don't know about. The 82.5 to 17.5 for the teachers and the 80 to 20% for the paras. has always been in place. In fact, the paras went down. And I'd also like to be noted that, in my opinion, cost sharing, it doesn't matter what level you are at. I think everybody should have the same cost sharing ability so that there shouldn't be different cost sharing plans. If you work for the SAU and you're part of the school, the cost sharing should be across the board. I feel it's a little bit unfair to expect the paras to pay more of the cost sharing when they get paid less than a teacher does.
Tracy?
I would also like to remind everyone that the insurance policies that are in place do not come from this current board. They are from previous boards. Maybe, Ralph, was it your board?
Well, I don't think we want to talk about that, really.
Okay, all right, that's okay. I didn't mean to. I don't know which board. I just want to establish, because there is so much misinformation out there, that the current insurance policies, health policies, this board had not, the board of last year did not put them in place. That's all.
That's for sure.
Okay, I get a letter every once in a while from Beth Fox. She's here. She's part of the Governor Wentworth School Board, and she watches us as well. And she said, "Hi, Tracy," and she keeps me up to date, and she watches. She knows how hard it is, and she's been very supportive. Hi, Tracy. Disappointing to the governor. In case anybody didn't know this, the governor vetoed the budget, and now no one will get property tax relief that was included in it. The 60 corporations who were not going to get a decrease in business tax now get to pay increased property taxes. I'm afraid it doesn't do any good to contact the governor, which I did to support this. The mayor of Berlin called his veto immoral. To encourage parents and others to write your local reps often looking for property tax relief from Concord. New Hampshire only pays about 28%, less than any other state. Good luck. I hope you enjoy your summer, and thanks for being on the board. But in case anybody didn't know, it passed that the adequate aid, the Senate and the House would have gone to that the 3,000 plus is not appropriate any longer, and they were going to bump it up to 6,000, which per student, which would have been enormously helpful, did disappear when the veto happened. So it was very disappointing, obviously, for schools and taxpayers. That's it.
Okay. Any other new business? Other business? Okay. What was this that was passed around?
That's coming up.
Okay.
Bullet 11.
Public comment?
Is that yours or is that? This is yours.
Anybody? Mr. Lee? No. All right, thank you. Resignation nominations?
We have a resignation, and that around as well.
Okay.
That around, your side, that side. This resignation comes from our preschool teacher, Carrie Hughes. She has taken a new position.
Same one, yeah.
You need a motion on this, I take it? Anybody?
I'll move to accept with regrets our resignation from Ms. Hughes.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Also, you have 2 hire sheets in front of you to hire teachers who are replacing teachers who left their positions. The first position you see is Kristen Kenley, 8th grade math teacher. She'll be replacing Jen Kuehl, who is now our assistant principal. She comes in on track DA plus 15 on step 11 at a salary amount of $47,990. She's a certified math teacher. Jim, you want to speak about your process, just briefly?
Yeah, we had a few candidates for the position, interviewed a few, and then brought a select few back to teach in front of the students. And on the record, off the record, because we're on the camera, but her interview was okay. But when she got in front of the kids, her skills shined. So that's what stuck out to me about her. And she has a fair amount of experience working at a few different schools, most recently Summersworth High School. So I think she'll be a nice addition, and it's nice that she'll have Jen in the building to support her and make sure that she has everything that she needs to be successful here.
She comes to school. My alma, what's that called?
Alma mater.
You mean Farmington?
As you see, we have two positions. I just want to point out that while we don't know where they'll land on insurance, even where they are right now in regard to salary and the high end of insurance, we'll still be saving money on the two positions that we're replacing. So we're looking for an approval of Ms. Bentley.
So, make a nomination to accept Kristen Henley for the 8th grade math teacher.
A second of a conversation.
Go ahead.
224. So we're kind of post-approving these, right? We're signing, we used to talk about this some years ago. On June 24th, these,
Is that a missed date?
well, maybe these aren't contract dates, maybe they're
No,
just.
this is
submissive.
the date it was submitted, this is the date it was starting to get written up.
Okay.
So they were interviewed, the offer was made, but it still has to kind of land with me, so that's about it, Jim.
We only had one meeting since the 24th. We only had one meeting on the 9th. I mean, this is,
My question, and I think I'm getting a clear answer, is that these are presented and the contracts haven't been signed until the school
Oh,
board.
no, contract, nothing's been written up at all yet. This is the start of the paperwork.
We've had
for
past
me.
history there.
Right.
So that's why he's
Yep,
asking that
absolutely.
question.
oh,
No, and,
We
you
haven't
know, on
had it
top of
here.
that, part of what you're talking about, Tracy, is we haven't had a meeting, but I'm also required to meet with them. And I was away that last week in the early part of July as well.
right.
So we were looking for, you got a motion on the
So a
table.
motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. The second nomination is Kathy Olson, who'll be replacing Miss Hawkins in the 5th grade classroom. Miss Olson comes in with a BA Step 13 with a salary amount of $51,553. Jim, you want to talk about her process as well, please?
So similar to what we did with Kristen, we had a pool of applicants, reviewed application packets, picked out a select few to interview, and then from the interview, the ones that interviewed really well, we brought to teach in front of our students. And the one thing that sticks out to me about Kathy is she nailed her interview, nailed her teaching in front of the students. But when I reached out to her, her references. One of her references said, "I don't know anything about the teachers at your school, but she'll either be the best or one of the best teachers that you have there." So the pressure's on for Kathy to live up to her references expectations, but
Now that you've done it on
And
TV.
you let her know that.
yeah, but she's got lots of experience, and I think she'll be a nice fit at the school. So
I have a quick question for you, Jim. So is this something new that you bring them in to teach a classes? I'd never heard that before.
I don't know if
We
we've
started
done that in
about
the
2
past,
years
but-
ago.
Really?
As part of one
Doing
of our
that?
improvement processes, we wanted to tighten up the interview process and bring them in, and great.
It's a great way of doing
great
it,
on
yeah.
paper, and your principal might be trying to get rid of you. So let's see how you really look in front of kids.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve the intent to hire for Kathy Olson for a 5th grade classroom.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 There you go.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, just one other piece. We've got a couple of positions that we're, as we've just received this resignation from Ms. Hughes, and Jim is interviewing, and because we won't have a meeting here for another 3 weeks, and the amount of time it takes to get our background checks done, I would be looking for authority from you to hire before we come to the board, because we need to start this paperwork on getting them fingerprinted for them to be here on the first
What
day.
position is this?
We're going to be having a library media specialist, and there are a couple of internal candidates. And so if that happens, we may have to replace somebody else. And so that this domino effect of time kicks in as we, it's only July now, but we're going to be into August very quickly, and it's taking us typically a month or so more to get background checks in from the state police. So, and I know that we've done this in the past, given the authority to the superintendent to hire, so we can just expedite that process.
I'm looking at you.
Okay, so, August 6th isn't really enough time for the background checks to be done. Do candidates ever come to the table with a background check in hand?
Can't.
They can't?
I mean, the reality is, and I tell this to subs, if you're applying for a sub position even, and you get your fingerprints done in Wakefield on August 1st, and you submit your fingerprints, and you go and you interview in Rochester on August 2nd, you have to get another set of fingerprints done. If you want to have, and I thought, look, if you're interested in doing this, and you're going to be doing a couple different districts, you might want to submit them all at the same time. If you do Rochester, Milton, and Wakefield all on the same day, those fingerprints will apply. But if you're off by one day, you have to redo them. So anytime someone comes to us, even though they've been a long-time teacher and they've never had an issue, they have to have it done every single time. And that just backs us up, and looking for the opportunity to make sure we get all our teachers in here on the first day of school for kids.
Jim, do you have something?
A little off topic, but in terms of fingerprinting and background checks, a lot of times it happens with substitutes, and it's frustrating. So I have a meeting or an interview September 1st, nice candidate, it's going to fit in well with the school and be a really highly qualified substitute teacher. And then I don't hear anything back about their background check or fingerprints until sometimes middle of October. And by that time, they've sought other employment. So what I was excited about bringing into the school is now gone, just because it takes a frustrating amount of time.
And just this time of year is busy for the police department. I'll recommend they typically go to the state police because they do a live scan and there's no mistakes with ink and smudging. It's because, again, you take that 6-week process, and we've had that kick out to 10, 12 weeks because of a bad fingerprint.
But how can other school districts hire quicker than, I guess if a candidate's there looking for a job,
Yeah.
they would probably tell you, I've applied here and there and the other places, and whoever comes along and picks me up first is going to be the winner, right?
I'm not following you.
Well, if we're waiting a certain amount of time for fingerprints and background checks to come to this school district, I mean, why does it take less time for another school district to get it?
It doesn't. Some school districts have fingerprints, a live scan at their SAU. Some people do it right there on the spot, and they don't have to worry about that. We're sending them out. Again, I think other school districts do the same thing we're doing, looking for, to have the authority to do that and expedite that when we start getting toward the end of summer, so that we're not behind the 8 ball.
And there's no chance of the process being expedited. I mean, not that making things faster and easier aren't smart, but are faster and easier proven. I guess I'm only concerned about whether or not the whole process is followed through on.
You're going to see the paperwork regardless of everything, just what you see here. It just allows me to expedite that process, so again, we don't end up with the whole, we don't supersede it. It just makes it so we can ensure that our teachers are here for day one when kids roll in and we're fingerprinted. We have done in the past, we've had to make sure that there's a para with that person the whole time. And we've got that permission as well from the SAU. I'd prefer to make sure that we have their fingerprints done, and we still might get caught short.
So with a motion, you'll accept responsibility for, if I make a motion to give Jerry the authority to hire prior to board approval, will that remove all responsibility from the board members?
Well, no, I mean,
For making a mistake.
you are ultimately responsible, but you're looking, am I going to trust you to follow the process is your question.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can, I would think you can.
I'll make a motion.
Go ahead, make the motion.
Should I make a motion to have Jerry do this, to expedite the process, or make it prior to board approval? Hire prior to board approval?
Sounds right.
Do you want to add this time for this instance? It's up to you, just an idea.
I would say just for remainder of the summer, you know, again, we're talking,
Oh, okay.
just so we can, again, if we end up in this position and going forward after the next board meeting, and we need to hire somebody like the day after, and we can get the fingerprints done, we want to be able to get that done.
Otherwise, it sounds like it's a general approval, so I
It
just
is a
meant.
general approval.
Go ahead, Sandy.
To be the naysayer. I understand that. I've been through that process. However, we're on a tight budget. And I'm thinking of the bottom line, you know, as long as it doesn't impact our bottom line of what we have for our,
Well, again, the reason I can tell you that we're below it, because I want to see where we were going to be with these new teachers. Because I'm concerned about that as well. I want to make sure that
it
anytime
has
we
to
end
fit,
up.
you know, who we hire has to kind of fit with.
Well,
we
you gotta
say
we
with
want
the
to also
budget.
make sure that we hire the right people.
Yeah, I know.
And I don't want to hire on just to fill the spot with the low bidder.
I know, the
Uh,
same way, but we need to keep
But I
that.
have to keep that in
Need a
mind as well.
balance.
Yeah, and I'm keeping an eye on that myself. That's my concern.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. That's all I have.
No correspondence, right? Motion to go in non-public? Anybody want to make that motion?
I didn't realize we had it.
Yep.
Do we have it? Alrighty. I make a motion to go into non-public for RSA 91-A
Most certainly will.
3
She's doing really well.
Two.
She's loving it. Yeah.
I. Consideration of matters relating to the preparation for and carrying out
Joe.
of emergency functions, including training to carry out such functions developed by local or state safety officials that are directly intended to thwart a deliberate act that is intended to result in widespread or severe damage to property or widespread injury or loss of life.
I'll second.
Do I have a second, a motion second? Roll call?
Jonathan, aye.
Cole, bye.
Well, aye.
Have a great night.
You gotta give me 5 seconds. Come
All
on,
right.
back into public.
Thank you, Bob.
Go ahead, Ralph.
We made a motion and approved a motion to award a contract to One Source Security in the amount of $35,495.
And do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Cole, bye.
Poor guy.
Well, aye.
Jonathan,
We
aye.
already did that, but that's okay. Anything else? Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.